Hello and welcome to the Acuta AOSC Super Series live on the iRacing Esports Network and live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me for this round 8 of the championship is Daniel Leet, with Scott Newton operating the cameras. And we're here at the brilliant Silverstone circuit. A brilliant host. Daniel's a little bit of a late change, but I'm very happy that this is the host for round 8 of the season.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, to all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you on board. Yeah, as you say, a little bit of a late change. We were originally scheduled to be heading to Indianapolis, which to see the V8 supercars there would have been a fantastic sight. But series organisers have moved us across to Silverstone, and as you say, we're in for a fantastic showing.
Absolutely. So just a little bit of a reminder of the format for today. We're currently in a 20-minute qualifying session. We've got 7 minutes of that remaining. We'll then have a 150-kilometer race. Should last about an hour and a quarter. This is a pretty quick circuit, so it should be one of the shorter rounds of this championship. And so far, Daniel, it's been a championship dominated by James Scott. After a couple of not dominating rounds, let's say, he absolutely crushed the field in the first 4 rounds, I believe, winning every single one of them. He then had a little bit of a barren spurt, I think, for 2 or 3 rounds on Park. He only finished in 4th place. He didn't win at Summit Point, for example. However, last time out, he managed to show his experience, just about 1 out at Montreal, and he holds a comfortable championship margin going into almost the midway point of the season.
Yeah, both James Scott and ERT been very, very dominant throughout the early portion of this series, and again, backing up with the points throughout the course to maintain the lead. And looking at where we're standing currently in the championship points, and we'll pull that up in just a second, they've got themselves James himself in the sprint format's got himself a very solid points gap now over Kyle Stokes, just over 700 points. So really starting to assert the dominance at this state of the championship. Thomas Hinz jumps up into 3rd now, which is really good for him. He was a little further down in the standings, but has had some very solid results. And again, we'll see him out there for some good solid action tonight also.
Yeah, there's so many different drivers who have the capabilities of winning races in this field. We've already seen a few race winners so far this season. James Scott, though, not usually necessarily pole sitter. He is currently on pole position at the moment. And so really playing down a very heavy gauntlet for the others to follow. Harley Haber is currently out on circuit. He's midway through his 6th lap of the session. How tricky is it to get a clean lap in around this place, Daniel? It's a pretty long circuit. Is it a possibility to, find that perfect lap time around a place like this, or is it just too tricky and you've got to kind of make the best of a tricky job?
Look, you can definitely get a good lap in. The hard part, and for the viewers tuning at home, you can see it up on the screen at the moment with the track map. It's very congested around a few portions of the circuit. So trying to find that lap's really key. Probably the big thing that's going to come in later on when you're finishing this lap, especially through the final complex corners when you get around Stowe, is getting the car working through the curves there through Vale Club and trying to get that really good exit and flow it out towards the finish line. So for the guys that are still out there having a punt trying to get up there, there's certainly opportunities to do that. We've got a lot of the field still sitting in that pit lane, so if they can pick themselves up in a nice little bit of space, there's definitely every chance they can jump up that timing tree.
Yeah, they've got to get out pretty quick though. The lap times around this place 2 minutes, and we've only got 4 minutes to go, so if you are going to set a lap time, you've got to be leaving the pits absolutely straight away. Still not too much movement. Harley Haber failing to... well, he did improve on that last lap, actually. I'm watching Harley Haber. However, it wasn't enough to move himself ahead of James Scott, so still needs to improve if he possibly can. The track temperature out there, not too bad for these drivers. Yeah, about 26 degrees, and could rise later on in the race, with it just being after midday at the moment. But yeah, not too bad conditions for the just however, might be warming up a little bit, and that's why it's tricky to really improve on the lap times. So yeah, we're into the last 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We've got still a lot of cars getting out there. A few guys really starting to set some decent times currently. Haber, I think, is going to be the big one, watching him try and make that charge to see whether he can get Scott. Still sitting in the lane, though. at this point, so he's going to maybe want to try and get out there very, very soon to at least crack one more lap in.
Yeah, and Andrew Dyson doing well up in third place at the moment. Of course, all the cars in this series are absolutely identical in terms of, of course, they'll change the setups. But the two choices for the cars that they've got, the Holden and the Ford, are absolutely identical. So no difference in there whatsoever. It's a proper, even playing field, no balance of performance and necessities in this championship. And should be very, very evenly matched. Ross improving once again. Has he managed to improve on that lap time? I don't think Ross did. He remains in 7th place at the moment, despite setting a couple of absolutely lightning sector times. You were seeing the purple on the bottom of the screen. Jordan Caruso also trying to improve at the moment. He's currently in 4th position. Again, failing to improve in that final sector of the lap. And now we are really getting into the closing stages. Of course, unlike the official series, you can set as once you start a lap, when the timer ticks down, you can start or you can finish your final lap. It does give these guys a little bit of extra time if they do need it. So you could see a bit of change. Harley Heber coming out of the pits, however, doesn't look like it's going to be able to get round in time to start a final lap time.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one for him to try and get around. Keep an eye on that. Brett Loxton currently working his way around the circuit at the moment, still trying to get a lap in, coming through that Maggots-Beckett section. The car looking pretty decently. He's able to get it up on the curves, which is going to help him there. A little loose, though, on the exit, getting onto the hanger.
Yeah, one of the many overtaking points on this circuit is Stowe Corner. If Loxton can't get a good qualifying, then you may well have to use it later on. Yeah, 21st place at the moment for him. And then it can so easily go away for you, particularly in these cars. So tricky to get the power down, so much power in these rear-wheel drive machines. And just has to be patient, mega patient, failing to get on the throttle too early. And he did not improve on that lap time, about 0.4 of a second slower for Loxton. Has still got one more attempt to go, and of course with this new tyre model, it's made these qualifying sessions a lot better, rather than crawling around your outlap, trying to keep the tyre temperatures as low as possible, and really only having one shot at a quick lap. So you've got a few opportunities now with the tyres gaining pace as we put in the lap times. Jordan Ross is up into 3rd place, so nice lap time for him. Andrew Gilliam crossing the line to go 6th, although I'm not sure if that was an improvement, and Caruso currently in 5th. Got a few purple sector times at the moment, it seems, but no one can quite get to Scott as the checker flags out.
Yeah, Scott set himself a really, really solid time. He's the only car under the 2-minute 0.5 range there. Everyone else just a little bit slower. And again, it could be where you come across the line with the track conditions. So a little hard to see. Ross Rizzo putting in a good display for Trick Sim Sports. Nice to have them back in the championship fold as well. And new livery on that car as well, looking quite sharp out there. So Ross currently down 9th spot and working his way up for this final couple of corners.
Yeah, purple 2nd sector for him as well. 5 sectors around this track. And can he improve it all? Yeah, 9th place at the moment. So he's going to beat the 2-minute barrier as he goes 8th. So a little bit of an improvement. Gets ahead of Tom Freer, who of course got a podium last time out at Montreal for Pursuit Sim Racing. 650-kilometer team race.
Job Stewart just struggling a little bit there on the exit of Beckett's. That car just oversteering a fraction. He's got pretty decent run down the hanger straight here. Just flicks it up into 6th gear. We'll see how it is as he throws it into Stowe and on the brakes pretty hard. That car not looking too bad at the moment.
Just got a couple more points to negotiate. Driver just behind him as well as Stewart's car number 35, and he moves up into 9th place. And great lap time as well for Ryan O'Sullivan just behind him. Moves up to 14th. I think that was something like a 7th-place gain for Stewart. So that is very impressive right at the end of the session. And I believe that is everyone back to the pit. So We're soon going to be able to go to the grid. What can we expect from this race start, you think, Daniel? I mean, Scott on pole position. It's not the longest run down into turn 1, but then that turn 3, the hairpin, it's very tricky to defend into, seeing that's such a massive braking area in these supercars.
Yeah, definitely. I think start for any of these drivers is going to be key. If anything, potentially could favour Haber, maybe just a fraction as he goes the run down in towards 3. If he can hold it alongside Scott as they get the jump off the line through turn 1 and maybe down to 3, he's got an opportunity through that arena section to maybe get back through. But I mean, it's hard to say. If everyone can get away, that's going to be where they're going to be trying to make a move. So we could even see some 3 to 4 wide action on the way in. The hard part's going to be for the guys well down the order, trying to keep an eye far enough ahead in case there is some issues for them to get around.
And of course, we could get a safety car. So I've seen a few first lap safety cars this season. Summit Point was one of them. That was always going to be tricky around that place. Much wider, much wider is this track. So hopefully, we won't see any of that. Although it could be fun. Could be fun. Let's see what happens. So on pole position then for round 8 of the Acuta AOSC Super Series, it's James Scott on the pole. Harley Haber in second place. Jordan Ross starts in third. There's Andrew Dyson, Jordan Caruso, and Andrew Gilliam rounding out the top 6. Danny Davison, Ross Rizzo, Job Stewart, and Tom Fear, the drivers from 7th to 10th. And then behind that is Jack Boyd. Carl Stokes, watch out for him from 12th. Thomas Hines, Ryan O'Sullivan with that late qualifying effort. Adam Briggs, Kenneth Latzer, Corey Preston, Bradley Rittu, Craig Jones, Sean Linsell, Brett Loxton, Marlon McCullen, Marty Hansen, Rob Bowden, Michael Taliancic, expects him to run very long for the first stint. Greg Sharp, Sean Thompson, Damien Johnston, Daniel Misdale, Nick Coulson, Jack Widdus, Ruben Goodall, Matt Morris, Zach Best, Jacob Knight, Reese Keane, Warren Pickering, David Kimmons, Rob Harris, Christian Smart, Craig Anspach, Wayne Taylor, Paul Lee, and Brian Borg. Watch out for Borg as well from 44th place. That could be a good drive to the field for the Premier Racing Team. Joe, you can see 2 seconds around this long track. I always say it. It's close. It's close. Lots of competitive drivers. The top splits, remember, of this event. So it is really is a lot of competitive drivers.
Yeah, definitely. I think you touched on a couple of good ones too to keep an eye on, which we'll keep an eye out through for Matt Morris and Borg coming through. But Light's bet to go. Start off into 1. Good jump there for Haber, getting up around the outside of Scott there, going very defensive down into 3, so really solid run here. James Scott still hanging in there. Jordan Caruso moving up the order as well, so good to see him. A couple of cars very wide at the back there. Still got some 3 wide action. I think that was Ross Rizzo very wide early on there. Up front though, Scott's been able to get back up to the front there. Got Harley Haber just behind Jordan Caruso, slotting back into 3rd. So ERT with a couple of cars up towards the sharp end at the moment, which is good for them. A little further back though, Danny Davison, Andrew Gilliam, Andrew Dyson all starting to fall back that little bit further. So the guys up the front with a fantastic jump off the line. And they all funnel down through the Maggots Beckett's complex at the moment. Everyone getting away pretty well there. There's still a little bit of 2 wide action a little further back in the frame as we focus here. Danny Davison down the hanger straight for the first time. Damien Johnston now getting a good run. He's got Wayne Taylor and Paul Lee just ahead of him as he funnels down this hanger straight for the first time. Everyone else down into single file though. And here we are, some 2 and 3 wide action on the run in. We got a contact, that's Nicholas Coulson involved, and then I think Jacob Knight was involved. We've got one of the EXG cars. I think it might have been there spinning around as well. So we'll look to see who was involved in that. And looks like everyone getting back underway. Oh, and a couple of more cars going off, so it's all starting to break loose here, and we'll keep an eye on those cars that are involved in that contact as everyone now trying to funnel their way through for that final lap, or first lap. Keeping an eye here, Kyle Stokes. Oh, one guy, someone up on the grass. That car not looking very good at all. I think that might have been Rhino Sullivan potentially involved in that, and big contact there for him. Focus now, Corey Preston up 5 spots from where he started, so it's been a good run for him so far. He's got Ross Rizzo in the Trick Sim Sports car just ahead. Rizzo, probably not the best start for him tonight, down 3 spots from where he started, currently back in 11th, so keep an eye on him to move forward. Tom Freer, though, is really starting to get up on the back of Preston here and looking for an opportunity as they work their way down. It's been a good start though for Davison, up 2 spots. He's got Andrew Dyson right behind him for DPR Racing, so we'll keep an eye on that. Work through Knight coming through. Jacob Knight going to have to come through for a unsafe pit entry there, so we'll keep an eye on that. The guys have a couple of laps to get that one served through. Out front, however, James Scott starting to edge away a little bit more from Haber. The gap now to 0.6 of a second, so it's been good opening couple of laps for James and Harley. They've actually started to extend a small gap over 3rd place Jordan Caruso now, so over half a second separating 2nd and 3rd right now, and a second covering our top 3 drivers out there at the moment. But another very dominant display so far from James Scott. For those who may be new to the series, he is running the orange banner on the cars, which does promote championship leader, so maintaining that good run so far. Harley Haber still putting in some good laps last time by for him, a 2-minute 0.8, so marginally quicker than Scott, and this car will really start to come in and play itself into the race as it goes by. It was very quick last time out, and unfortunately we don't have the team manager for United out there tonight, but we do have him in the chat, so great to have Jamie keeping an eye out there, and he'll be really loving this run from Haber right now, so good to see.
Yeah, if anyone's going to keep James Scott honest, it's certainly going to be Haber. Apologies for those couple of technical issues from myself, but it should all be addressed by now. Haber actually, yeah, with that fastest lap of the race on the last tour. So rounding out the top 3. That's a slow driver. It's a little bit further back. I think it's Adam Briggs. He must have picked up a slowdown going through Maggots and Beckett. And he's just dropped down into 11th place now. You can see still serving that slowdown. I assume that's a slowdown at least. It's an unusual place to pick up one, but it is very possible. It's probably not the ideal line to be honest, because you're going to have to really go off the circuit quite a bit with this new tyre mod. The off track is so slippery, the grass and the gravel. And so it does seem to have finally recovered from that, Briggs, but that is about 4 places lost for him right there. As James Scott out in lead sets the fastest lap of the race. Already quite spread out this field. We usually see the drivers from about 5th down to 15th all in a massive pack, but instead there's kind of 2 or 3 packs at the moment occupying those places.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone basically from 1st down to 13th really starting to separate themselves out. From there, we've got 14th all the way back down to 42nd now, just crossing the finish line. So they're running all the way from corner 4 also down to turn 1. So really long gaggle of cars working their way around this circuit also. Briggs
trying to recover those places. Wasn't competent enough into Brooklands. Fantastic that we go to a circuit where I do know half the corner names. At least this one is Loughfield, and then, of course, Woodcut, Cox and Maggots, Beckett, Chapel, Stowe, Love, just to name a few. And, of course, the Village Straight as well, involved in this circuit. So into Cops they go. Sometimes an overtaking opportunity, but you kind of got to line it up for a couple of corners beforehand if you're going to go for it, and then Maggots and Beckett's very much just setting up. Not too bad, the turbulent air. We see it in single seaters, really tricky to stay close around this part of the circuit, but in these supercars and in touring cars as well, much easier. And he is all over the back of Corey Preston. He's had a good start, but Briggs just seems to have that bit of overspeed. Into Stowe they go. The slipstream effect relatively minimal in this machine. Looks to the inside, does Briggs deeper on the brakes. Leaves some room, does the 028 car, sorry, 098 car. And Preston has the inside again. This is costing Briggs and this is costing both of them a lot of time. Just wonder, is this the best policy for Preston to defend like he is at the moment? I mean, they've got the drivers ahead in sight. If he lets Briggs go, then maybe he could be towed along to them. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to give up a place to a driver that you're relatively evenly matched to. So this is tricky for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's the lesser of two evils here, maybe defence. Yeah, you don't need to be doing it so early on. It is a long race still to go. We've got 24 laps still left in the tank, but with how close that field is, any opportunity to lose a spot, you're instantly under attack again. So working very hard. Rob Harris putting on a good move now down the inside there, or trying to get down the inside of Greg Sharp. And then just around the outside, you've got Matt Morris, who was coming up from second to last on the grid, currently now finding himself up in the 22nd position. So it's been a fantastic start for Matt Morris right now.
Has, after trying to go for me, I think loses out there on Morris to the outside. Can he just keep part of his car alongside? We saw this in the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship, also on the Esports Network and on Apex Racing TV yesterday. Around this part of the circuit, so many contacts with drivers feeling as though they had part of their car alongside, and then of course the driver on the outside kind of just turning in and making contact. So far we haven't seen it today, but that can really be a big trouble spot around this circuit. Also, of course, those off tracks, you don't want to pick up too many of them. I believe it's 35 and you start getting some penalties. The biggest concern for these drivers, and this is where we also saw a slowdown, of course, earlier on in the race for Adam Briggs. See how it's pretty tricky to pick up a slowdown, but just about is possible. Big slide for the driver ahead of Harris, and Greg Sharp is going to be under big pressure by the end of this straight. Apologies, Matt Morris is going to be under big pressure, but it just wasn't close enough. This is probably the biggest gaggle of cars we got in the event at the moment. Warren Pickering just bringing up the rear.
Yeah, Warren will probably play this one smart, just keeping an eye. You see him with a big move down the inside and just having to back that one up. So that was actually McMullen there in the background trying to get a move done on Christian Stewart. So McMullen not having a great night so far, well down the order from where we traditionally see him, but slowly working his way back up towards the pointy end. So we'll keep an eye on that. He's bringing Warren Pickering along for the ride, and Warren, another very good competitor in these cars. So those two definitely looking to get their way up the front. A little further ahead of this little battle, we've got Rob Harris still all over the back of Matt Morris as well. So those guys haven't let their fight get too far away, and actually, as we turn up to it, Morris just getting a bit of an edge now and starting the attack on Greg Sharp.
Yeah, it's tricky to know which cars to focus on in this battle, because they're constantly going on overtakes on one another. It's one of those, that's very wide just behind. I think McMullen might actually gain a place. I think that was him going past Christian Smart just a moment ago. Also Ryan O'Sullivan, here he is, after good qualifying for him, up one place. Just had Brett Loxton. And within 0.2 of a second, there's not really a whole lot you can do in it going into here, and just be patient. Enjoy it as well, of course. This section of corners, one of the absolute best in the world. It's watching a clip of the 91 Silverstone race, or maybe the 92 race, and how I think 91 was the first season, I think, with the Magnussen Beckett section. It's incredible how this track has had so many iterations, and yeah, it is so good. We always talk about modifications to old school circuits being a negative, and yet this place just seems to have got better and better over the years. And that Magnussen Beckett circuit, almost certainly the best amendment to the track, which has been added to it over the last 70 or 80 years. Sullivan really isn't close enough into turn 1 as they move on to the seventh lap of the race. When do we think we can expect the pit stops, Daniel? Where do you think will be the earliest the drivers can come in?
Look, we could probably see some drivers. If you're a betting man, you're probably going to want to start coming in maybe in the next 4 to 5 laps, get that stop out of the way and run it through. With the 150k races, we do see a slightly reduced fuel tank capacity, so it's down about 75% to what we would traditionally see in these cars, which will come into its own a little bit, but in a shorter race distance like this, you're probably going to be looking around that 11 to 12 lap mark. That being said, though, especially for our leaders, where they decide to come in is going to be all critical at this point, because as we focus on James Scott working his way up towards Magnussen Beckett, the field is all the way down the second back or the second straight here. So picking your opportunity to come in, get that stop, get yourself back into clear air is going to be all important.
Yeah, and it's a quandary that these drivers have every single race. High tyre wear as well around this place. So the undercut is powerful, but then of course if you pit too early, then you're going to be very vulnerable in the closing stage. Lots of long corners around this track. Maybe think of maybe Barcelona as a circuit which has even longer radius corners. But yeah, really tough on the tyres will this place be, at least for these guys not to a high track temperature. Andrew Dyson really under pressure from Danny Davidson. T10 to a second. I was just thinking they were so close through Stowe. I thought Davidson might actually go for a move, but Dyson pulls a car length or maybe even 2 through the club section. So that's had some amendments to it since the old version of Silverstone. Remarkable that this place was only added about a year ago, not even that, I believe. That's how brilliant that it is now on here. Of course, brilliant graphics being provided by iRacing for this circuit. Really does pop out of the screen, especially compared to Summit Points where we visited earlier on in the season. Jordan Ross has got past Thomas Hines, I think. It's up into 8th place. I believe that was on this lap. I certainly think he was behind Hines earlier on. Maybe it was on the last lap he got past Thomas Hines. And they're both past Ross Rizzo as well. So Jordan Ross back up into 8th place. Do we know what happened to Ross on the first lap, Daniel? Of course, I missed that first lap, unfortunately, but he's down 5 places from his start.
Yeah, dropped a little bit down off the jump there. I think just with all the congestion of the track getting away, we didn't quite capture what had happened there. But you know, Jordan Ross, one of those drivers that will work his way back up through the field, seems to be having just a fraction of connection issues. That'll be a little bit unsettling for the two just ahead of him. But he's one of those drivers though that can make the most out of these cars, similar to what we see from your James Scotts and Harley Havers. They'll work out a way to get the most out of this and bring it forward later on in the race.
Had an incredibly frustrating round at Oran Park, I remember, did Jordan Ross, where just everything went against him. I mean, bag qualifying, then he got involved in a collision at the start, got like a penalty, I think. Pit stop didn't work, and you kind of felt for him after that. That was the last sprint round, I believe, we had in the championship. Thomas Hines is not letting him have it easy. And here we go into Stowe Corner. We've seen this a few times with drivers kind of just glancing to the inside, and it's up to the driver on the outside kind of just to take the normal line. It's almost a bit like, I don't know, like motorbikes almost, where you see the drivers go for a bit of a lunge and then the driver on the outside still trying to take the normal racing line. And Hines close around this part of the circuit, but this is a part where you can't really do a whole lot with it. Maybe into turn 3, where we've seen a mixture of lines. Sometimes we see wide through 1, and how wide are you willing to go through 2, because you want to get back to the left side of the circuit into 3, but everyone quite happy to just stay in the middle of the track. You get enough turn in anyway. And Hines just trying to get the cut back into each one of these on the 1-4-3 car. As just a spin there, that was one of the back markers, so No position changes out of the top guys. And this Wellington straight, I think it's just going to be too short for him. He has got good overspeed. Goes to the inside again. But just not willing to fully commit. Doesn't want to get involved in a collision this early on. I just want to go back to that big battle for 30th place. It just started to spread out a little bit. But well, I say started. So look at it. It's ever so close still. A little bit of side by side with Greg Sharp just getting past Christian Smart. Good guys pulling away just ahead of these guys in the top 30, but just outside the top 30, lots of places up for grabs.
Yeah, definitely. As we focus on Zach Best, he's a little bit up from where he started, so currently sitting in the 31st spot, which is good to see, still moving along. He's got Sean Thompson starting to monster in behind him. Right behind that, though, we've got a couple of guys getting involved in a few scraps just behind there as well. As you can see them side-by-side action going across the old start-finish line. For those that remember the old traditional layout that we used to have here on iRacing, still available to run, but not as great as this one. But Jack Wittes having a good solid run. Craig Jones just ahead of him, and Mark 1E Sports Car sporting a slightly revised livery as well this race as well. Nice to see. So some new checkers across the front of that car, spicing it up just a little bit as well.
Triple one, slow out of Chapel. If you're not attacking, you're defending. Certainly seems like it's the motto of this series. So it's certainly motto of this pack. And around the outside goes the 38. Can you get it stopped? No, just not the adhesion on the tarmac. You know what? Actually, he's done a pretty good job of getting good exit, tightening up the line for the triple one. And so he had to back out of that side by side. And these beacons helping the others up ahead to get away. A little bit of contact. And it is Wittes who stays ahead. I do sometimes wonder if only iRacing was released like 5 years earlier and we got an old Spa. I mean, I'm not saying like village-esque Spa from like the 50s, but the kind of pre-2007 layouts. That would be brilliant. So I think we should be quite grateful that we got the old Silverstone as well with the bridge complex. But yeah, certainly not as good as this place, and certainly the trackside objects as well. They have really managed to develop this place absolutely superbly. Of course, got good international and national layouts as well, all of which available on iRacing. No stow layouts. What's with that? No rallycross. Certainly needs to be added. Hopefully iRacing did scan it when they visited this place a couple of years ago. As we go back to a replay, and this is how Andrew Dyson did manage to get past Danny Davison then, and just went for a little bit of a dummy, and that was all very, very simple into Stowe corner.
Yeah, it wasn't a very hardly fought position there. So obviously these two just switching position. We get another look at it from the onboard shot of Dyson. He got a nice draft down through the hangar straight, fainted a little bit like he was going the normal brake line, just fired it down the inside. That was a good move. Very lucky not to get any contact with the left front corner there. But as he's slotted that car back in across Davison coming back just a fraction, not quite close enough to get it through those final couple of corners there.
So up into 5th place now is Andrew Dyson, still 1 place down on his start. Bit of scraping as well on the side of that car. Another great element iRacing have introduced recently, and also the spec maps with the metallic and the glossy textures we now have on these liveries, as Ross Rizzo has got involved in something.
Yeah, we're just going to cut back to a replay here just to see what's happened. And Rizzo was in a pretty solid three-way fight. They had Jordan Ross and Thomas Hinds just around him as they worked their way down through that Maggots-Beckett's complex, getting a pretty good initial run through there. The car looking quite poised, gets the apex nicely, but set himself up for a good run. So we'll keep an eye on this just to see what unfolded.
Yeah, because Jordan Ross is now behind these drivers. So Ross, as you can see, was ahead, and I assume he must have made a mistake then. Going into, oh dear, has Rizzo hit him? No, that's all right. Apologies, Ross. Innocent before proved guilty, although there still is the opportunity for some contact here. the moment at least, Ross was staying ahead. So certainly Ross has lost that place anyway, before. Maybe this will tell us.
One thing I am...
Down the inside. Ross, is he going to be shoved off the circuit going into the kink? No, Rizzo just made it pretty clean there.
Yeah, once he got that position, just held the line and effectively just walked Hens out just a little bit, but that 3-car chain now turning into a 4-car chain. You can see Tom Freer closing in on the back of Jordan Ross, and keeping an eye on Jordan's car, just has been going around, seems to be struggling just a little bit for lateral grip. You can see the back of the car just moving a fraction when he's right in the commitment zone for turning in, but really solid run here for Freer, now just knocking on the door of that top 10 position, currently in 11th. As we can see, Hens trying to get a move done too, also up the inside of Rizzo, and almost reversing what we saw just a lap ago.
Yeah, and Hens side by side. Don't want Grosjean and Magnussen around this part. I think that the iRacing wheels will be a little bit stronger than that. As cutting across there is the 52. And getting ahead then is Thomas Hens. So he was ahead of these drivers, then lost it, and back ahead again. So that's really strong for him. And it does seem like Ross is the one who's struggling out of these drivers. Tom Freer is all over the back of him. A little bit of a slide as well for Tom Freer. And I just had to lift out of it to control that wheel spin. Behind them as well, Joe, we haven't noticed too much, Corey Preston in 12th place. He was having to hold off Adam Briggs earlier on. I was saying, oh, let Briggs pass. He's pulled away from Briggs since then, so clearly got good pace, and it's now Briggs under pressure from O'Sullivan. I'm shocked no one's come into the pits yet. I'm really surprised. This is lap 12 of 29, so we're nearly at the halfway points of this race. You know, 14, 15 is the halfway point, and no one's gone for the undercut. Come on, guys, roll the dice and see what happens. But they're being very, very astute with that at the moment.
Yeah, we haven't seen anyone take the opportunity to come in. We are. Oh, is he? Abe was in.
Okay, he was listening to me.
Well, it's the first cab to blink, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll also get our first representative time of the stationary pit stop times and where they're likely to fall back in as well. We see everyone else starting to funnel through. Jack Boyd getting past Ross Rizzo, Harley Hay, Thomas Hens, all these guys starting to push their way forward. But for the stop for Haber, not too bad. But I was just going to say quickly too, with the field starting to spread out as much as it is, probably now is getting about that time where you want to be looking to come in for those stops, get yourself out back in some clear air as well.
So Haber is currently stationary. He's up to 13, 14, 15, 16. I remember how long these stops usually are. They should have to take quite a lot of fuel, should these drivers, like I said at the top of the show, how quite high fuel consumption. Check this, 25 seconds for Haber. Where does he come back out? Oh, that's a bit of a pocket of air. I don't know how he's found that one. He's just ahead of a couple of drivers. That's not too bad for him. So he's behind the 0.38 then. Just trying to figure out where he is, Haber.
Yeah, so currently come out in the 20th spot there. So that's Bradley Radu just ahead of him, Kenneth Latta right behind. Pretty good representative time though. It was about a 57-second run down pit lane here, 18 seconds stationary. So that'll give us the starting numbers of what we're going to see for the guys coming back through. But we saw the gap just before this went underway. It was only a couple of seconds between himself and Scott. So interesting to see how that unfolds. Brad Ratu, though, trying to get a move done around the outside of Warren Pickering. Warren's going to make this very, very hard for him right now.
He's going to have to go off the circuit. With Kurt, is a corner in these machines, unlike many other cars. It's Ratu with a lovely move around the outside of Cops. That was really nicely done. Had to leave his driver some space. Oh, and this is terrible for Haber. He's going to get held up through this Maggots Beckett's Chapel section. Might not be too bad for him. But he needs to make sure that he gets past at least one of these drivers into Stoke. Got so much more grip with those fresh tyres, and here he comes. Can put that power down, and will get past the 47, who almost waves him on by. Still got Ratu to get past. He'll be praying that Ratu comes into the pits, although if he goes down his inside, then Ratu won't really have an opportunity to come in. Into the pits is James Scott, so has this outlap. for Harley Haber being good enough to make the undercut. It's still stationary in his pit stop. Caruso stayed out, so from third place, Caruso was. He's decided to stay out for a little bit longer. Scott is still stationary, 24.85, so he was 1/10 longer than Haber. Here comes Haber through the first couple of corners. Where is Scott in comparison? He is behind. James Scott has lost the lead. Haber, just by the skin of his teeth, gets ahead. And that is a brilliant undercut strategy from him. And that was getting past that traffic effectively. If he hadn't have made that move on the 2 into Stowe Corner, I don't think it would have happened. But that was the perfect undercut. He got himself a little bit of space. He was decisive through the traffic. And James Scott has lost the lead.
Yeah, it was a great run. Don't also forget too the difference in the pit stop times. We see Haber stationary 18 seconds, James Scott stationary 24.5. So potentially maybe took a couple of tyres there just to help him out later on, which could come back to help out. But I just say fantastic run for Haber. Picked that traffic up perfectly and was able just to extend that gap.
So now we wait for Cruz to come into the pits. He is into the pits. Weird pit lane as well down this place. It is painfully slow, because if it wasn't painfully slow, then under safety car it would be faster to go through the pits than follow the safety car. You cut off that kind of last complex of corners. Brett Loxton would like to do that at the moment. Is he going to come in? Not quite. I always remember Heidfeld around this place. I realised it was the old pits, but when Heidfeld overtook Reichman one time through Luffield, and Reichman wanted to come into the pits, and Heidfeld kind of blocked the line off. And you can kind of do the same thing with this pit lane as well. You don't go for the easy pit lanes at Silverstone. That would be far too simple. And of course, very strange that it's dipped down by about by a number of feet below the surface of the circuit. As looks like Loxton might lose this place. No. Driver behind him not quite being able to go for it. Other drivers coming into the pits, including Caruso. Where is Caruso compared to Haber and Scott? He's 3 seconds behind. You can see him in 9th place at the moment on the time tower. That will turn into 3rd place for Caruso. But staying out those couple of extra laps, and could work for him if the top 2 start fighting. He's got 4.5 seconds to catch up to the lead.
Yeah, a little further back probably than where he wants to be right now, although it's about right from where we see both James Scott and Jordan Caruso very, very similar on the times. Haber probably going to be the big one though.
Ross has spun
because he's stopped.
Sorry, Jordan Ross, I think we just saw spinning in the background there. Sphere and Hinz. Oh, contact! Not sure who that was coming across who. But it's Hinz on the outside, Fear on the inside, a massive lock-up on those fresh tyres for the 52, and has to give room, and he's not best pleased with that one, is Hinz?
No, it was a big contact. Lucky both cars able to get through that, but yeah, Hinz very, very frustrated with that. You see the flash of the lights almost instantly, and right now he's going to have Corey Preston closing up behind for the EXG team, and looking to get a move done while Thomas Hinz is vulnerable at this point. But we'll cut back to a replay just to see what unfolded here. But looks like Freer got the great run coming through. Hinz just had come out of the pit stop lane, very defensive down into turn 3 there, and then see Freer down the inside, tries to hang Hinz around the outside, try to push him off the track just a touch, but no gap left for either of these two. And then right here we're going to see that big contact from both of those drivers, whoa, as they go under the bridge, and Freer just able to get that car ahead.
We saw a similar incident to that in the ARLTC. It was a little bit further down the Wellington Straight, but on that occasion I think three of the top 4 crashed out of the event that time. Very nice driving from those guys to keep the cars running in a relatively straight direction. Haber's still ahead. I thought, oh no, Scott's got into the lead. They have got relatively similar liveries. We were talking about this as well. Blue is very popular now with these guys, and from the front, these 2 liveries, they don't look too dissimilar. So come on, guys, and then you can see behind as well. Jordan Caruso, he's got a similar livery as well. Come on, guys, have a bit more base. Have some magenta, as Marco Barbanero would recommend. And mix up these liveries a little bit. We don't want to see Prost and Benetton back in 2001, I think it was, when they had almost identical liveries. Anyway, they do look very cool, though, these cars. There's no doubt about it. Of course, like I was saying just before, John Ross spinning from about 12th place. We saw the back end of that a couple of minutes ago. So he's dropped a couple of places. Yeah, Carl Stokes. Sorry, was it Stokes or Ross? Not sure. I think it was Ross. It was one or the other. Anyway, for the leads, 3/10 of a second, James Scott is behind. Usually in this situation, we see Scott very patient, Daniel. He's willing to wait the long game. What does he need to be thinking? What tactics can he use in order to get past Harley Haber, who will defend if his life depended on it after these guys got a nice rivalry, which certainly came to a boil last time out at Montreal.
Yeah, I think looking at, you can see Haber already very defensive, trying to maintain that spot. And it'd be a great opportunity for these guys if they can get that car up towards, keep it in the pointy end, as we see both Ross Rizzo and Nick Coulson in the lane as well. So effective race leaders on track, moving up 1 and 2. Scott, though, very, very good under brakes. He fired in through turn 1, looking to set up a move down into 3 here. But Scott's one of those drivers, he'll play the mind games. He'll get you positioning your car right where he wants you to, and he'll look for a move here. But Haber's not going to be an easy candidate to get past. We know he's been in for some really solid battles throughout his iRacing career, and again, rising to the top, as we see both these two with a big slide out of 4.
Just about keeping his foot pinned was Harley Haber through the kink. It's so tricky to defend around this place. Here comes Ross down the inside into Brooklands. Haber will try to keep part of his car alongside. Can he keep alongside? There's contact between the two of them, and Haber shoves his way back through. That was really good defensive driving. Just had enough adhesion on the outside of the circuit to keep some pace around the outside, and then going into Luffields, he had the inside line. But that's a danger shot from Ross and from Scott. And there are so many overtaking places around this track, like I was saying, at the end of that Wellington Straight, at the end of the Hangar Straights, going into Club as well. So it's going to be so tricky for him to stay ahead, but he's doing a good job of it at the moment. He's got to do it for another 13 laps yet, though, as Scott is once again launching an attack.
Yeah, very aggressive for Scott through the curves there. You can see him already pushing Haber down towards the inside of the track. Going to slow up his rate of turn there. Big move down the outside. Not quite there, but setting up for those final corners down towards Vale and Club, and just struggling a little bit on that exit. But here he is, gets the car up, and this will actually be a little change for the lead here. So nice, strong move there for Scott.
Oh, coming back again, though, it's Haber. Scott round the outside. Has Haber got the better line? Scott will be willing to go off the circuit, I imagine. Haber will shove him off. Almost contact again. They're dead level across the line. Scott might just get his nose ahead going into turn 1, but Haber with the inside line, and it will turn into the inside line again for turn 3. However, Scott staying ahead. Can he cut off the line? Yes, he can. And James Scott has taken the lead at Silverstone once again. Haber needs to strike back straight away, and that is what he's trying to do. Look at Caruso right on the tail of these drivers now. Haber positioning his car nicely, getting the cutback. How much speed can he carry through the kink? It's all right. Now that slipstream effect needs to help him out, get some overspeed on his rival. Only 1 second back to third place driver as they almost made contact again, and Haber has come back past James Scott, who responds again. Haber sticks his car down the inside. It's a carbon copy almost of the last lap, but this time Scott has managed to keep it round the outside through Luffield and has got a better launch and gets a car length ahead. Haber trying his absolute best, but James Scott just has too much pace, it seems, right now, Daniel.
Yeah, both these guys throwing absolutely everything in it. You'd be confused for thinking it's the final lap of the race right now. We're only on lap 18, still many more laps to go in the book here, but both these two very aggressive at the moment. While this fight continues on, we're seeing Jordan Caruso slowly bring that gap up. You can see just in the back of shot there, 0.6 of a second behind, so nothing between our top 3 right now, but Haber maybe just having to slow down just a fraction, get those tyres back under him, and then have another fire at Scott here. But just those few corners ago, we could have seen both these cars potentially ending up in a big battle.
Flashing the lights now with Scott. I don't know why he's doing that, because there's no in front of him. Maybe just flashing to the broadcast saying what a good battle this is, because it really is. Haber seems as though he's quick enough to stay in the draft. However, I think he'd much prefer track position. Could potentially go for lunge, and that was an incredible attempt he made at the end of the Wellington Straight. Also, Andrew Gilliam, there he is in 4th place. This top 4 absolutely in a league of their own. And now it looks like Caruso who's got 2 lap fresher tyres, remember, than Haber. And is he going to go for a move into turn 3? Haber cut off the line. He nearly makes contact as well with the race leader. Scott's not going to have this one easy. Nice line for Haber around those couple of corners. Seems to be willing to tighten up the first hairpin a bit more to open up the second hairpin, and it helps him down this next straight. But this time, even for Harley Haber, I think he's too far back to go for an overtake.
Yeah, we're less than a second covering our top 3 right now. It's all bets are off, the gloves are off, and these guys are really going after it. But Haber now gone from attack on the back of James Scott's got to keep in mind that little bit of defence with Caruso closing in, only 0.2 of a second between both second and third right now. So the eyes are partially forward, partially backwards, and he's going to want to position that car just in the right spot to try and hold him off and still maintain a bit of an advantage on James.
These drivers lapping 2.5 seconds slower than they were earlier on in the race, despite the fact they have got fresh tyres now.
Back to replay here. Kenneth Goodall and Reece Keane having a good little scrap a little further down the order. This is down for 21st, 22nd. Nice inside move there for Keane to get his car up the inside as we cut back up to live pitches. Front 3 still going.
That was defensive from Haber. Had to, well, I don't think he was too late. He almost anticipated the move from Caruso. He just goes for the outside move here. Might get part of his car alongside, and now James Scott is pulling away. It almost feels like Haber is losing any chance of winning this race right now because he's got those older tyres, of course. Scott flashing his lights again. Why he's doing that, nobody knows. Hopefully we'll get an interview with him later on in the race. I'd love to know why he is going for that strategy. 9 tenths of a second between the 2 race leaders. Caruso wanting to line this one up. As a apology, yeah, Caruso trying to line this one. Haber again with that decent line through the hairpins, but Caruso with maybe slightly better traction. Losing time through the kink. He just having to lift off on that occasion. See how he's a little bit further behind than he was at the start of this lap. Drives it in deep, too deep.
Lightest of touches there as they reverse back on each other, but last time by for both those 2 drivers, we're seeing them dipping down into 203s, while James Scott, now that he's been able to break away just a fraction, still hovering around those 202.3s, so 0.7 of a second advantage. He's now starting to clear out 1 second up the road. There you see the big gap that he's getting, but Haber has it all to do here to try and hold on to that second spot.
Caruso with that slightly tighter line. You can see how the front end of that supercar might just be a little bit better in this Holden. Gap down to 0.3. It's all right for Caruso, and we've seen a lot of overtakes from kind of this far back into Stowe, but you need to get your opponent almost catch your opponent unawares. And Haber will be so aware of his mirrors at the moment, and when they're not fighting, I mean, they can keep up with the race leader, but it's all this battling which is losing them a bit of time. 1 second now the gap is up to out in the lead, as if anything Haber pulls out a car length or 2. Further back, by the way, Andrew Dyson in 5th place, with Jack Boyd and Dane Davison rounding out the top 7. We've also got this battle with Coulson and Murray. And that is Coulson going to the inside in the 202 car. And he gets
that'll
ahead of Kimmins. Nicely done there. That was all quite simple into Stoke.
Yeah, and just behind that little scrap, you got Matt Morris closing in, Reece Keane, Ruben Goodall as well, working their way up. So a few drivers started well down the order, starting to find their way up in towards the midfield now, which is good to see. Warren Pickering and Kenneth Latta still going at it. These guys now down to 26th, 27th. Right behind that, you've also got Rob Harris getting involved in there as well. So nice little three-car battle. These guys, as I say, fighting over 26th, 25th, 27th, and 28th position out on track. All drivers going up in standings, so which is good to see.
Yeah, you want those positions if you possibly can. Believe the top 30 drivers in the championship get an automatic spot into top split, and that's a big deal. If you can get into the top split without having to worry about qualifying, that makes life a lot easier, because there are so many competitive drivers in the second split, which unfortunately we're not broadcasting, but I'm sure there's some good action going on in there as well. As the 269 car of Latta on the insides, but with this section corners, it is really absolutely terrific how you can have side-by-side round the first part and do the second part. Usually the outside driver has the better run coming out of the corner, and that is how it's turned out. Kenneth Latta moves up a place past Warren Pickering, and now Rob Harris. Can he go from even to top corner? Just too quick, not big enough braking area. By the way, as we go to McMullen, he is ahead of Rob Bowden. 5 seconds to Carl Stokes. McMullen actually making some pretty good places. Wasn't a brilliant start, wasn't a great qualifying for him, but he's made some good places during the pit stop sequence. Pitted on lap 13, one of the earliest drivers to come into the pits. Maybe that is leaving him a bit vulnerable at this point. Bowden with 2 lap fresher tyres, which around a long circuit like this is a big deal.
Yeah, still doing a fantastic job though, Rob, working his way up 7 spots from where he started, so really good to see. Better jump back up front. This battle for second and third really starting to heat up as we catch to the inside with Caruso trying to get a move now done on Haber. Haber able to retain and keeps that United car just a fraction ahead, will retain second spot at this moment, but throw a tail over these two, absolutely nothing between them right now.
Couldn't quite stay alongside, could he, through Luffield, as Haber feels the need to go defensive into Cops. I wonder if that he will regret that one. No, it's just not a long enough run into... Well, maybe it is a long enough run. Here comes Caruso. This would be very ambitious. No, it has to back out of it. And now that race win, it's ebbing away for these two drivers. 3 seconds to the race leader. I think Haber realised that second place is as good as it's going to come, so he's going to put everything on the line to hang on to it. As Gilliam loving this one. 7 seconds back to Dyson, so I don't think he's going to get involved. You'll just see him in the background coming onto the hangar straight. Here comes Caruso. Is there contact? Oh, how there wasn't. I do not know. Just leaving enough room there was Harley Haber. This is great race car from him at the moment, driving a much slower car. And again, gets in the cutback is Caruso. Turn 1. So far, we've seen pretty much no overtakes whatsoever. I don't think we are going to see an overtake this time. Haber seems to take an alternative line through turn 1 and 2, where he drives it really deep into 2. And it works well because it gives him a little bit of space, and it means that he can be defensive into 3. And you see it again there. He's using all the space, and it gives him a tight line into 3. But he doesn't care because he's staying ahead. Oh, big slide for Caruso. And is this the opportunity for Gilliam? Wasn't quite close enough to pounce. But that's going to overheat Caruso's tyres a little bit. He can't afford to do that. And he can't afford to wear out those tyres either. Otherwise, he'll lose that advantage he's currently got.
Yeah, really lucky there for Caruso not to have looped that one around. I thought Gilliam may have got down the inside there, but just able to hold it off. But this is a nice little 3-car group. Looking at the lap times last time by both Haber, Caruso down at the 204s while they're scrapping as hard as they are. Caruso just under a second quicker than these guys, which has really allowed him to close up and create this nice little battle now for second position. 3 cars all across this, and this one's going to continue on. 6 laps left on the books here for these two, so still plenty of opportunities for Gilliam to get a move done. But that little half spin has just dropped Caruso back off the tail now, Haber.
Lots of curb there taking it. Is that going to be a slowdown for Gilliam? That was pushing it a lot. It seemed like a good line because he cut the corner, basically. Odd curbs around that part of the track. Yeah, it seems to be alright for him. Also weird to see the... Well, it's not weird anymore, but I remember when they painted the curbs here, white and black. It was all a bit strange. I kind of miss the reds and whites, even though it's a bit dull, bit kind of average. The whites and black, yeah, it's all right. Not getting those 2010 vibes though from this circuit when it was first opened. It's not even using the new pits complex. And of course, in many series, they still don't use this new pits complex because it's not as big as the old paddock. Rizzo is trying to get past Thomas Hinz at the moment. Tom Fear is behind Hinz. I don't think we saw how Fear lost that one. However, Hinz is going to be all over the back of these guys soon because they've just lost each other a humongous amount of time through the final corner. Going side by side through there is going to kill your momentum. And Rizzo is yet to get past. Rizzo, you went so long in the first stint, went to lap 16. It's pretty much longer than everyone else. You think that's 3 laps longer than, for example, Harley Haber. And he's reaping the benefits of it now. He's absolutely all over the back first. Scott Newton brings up that brilliant graphic to tell you all the information. I tell you very poorly. And you can see the yellow block is bigger than the blue block. And that is all you need to know for Ross Rizzo. A longer first stint for him. Of course, all these graphics provided by SDK Gaming. You can see the amount of customization we've been able to bring to it with all the fonts and the colors and the layouts. Really absolutely fantastic. All these elements are available. Do check out SDK Gaming website and you can create your own livery. If you know CSS, you're going to have an absolute field day because of the amount of stuff you can customize, and it's just good for live streaming and broadcasting and all of that stuff. So certainly do check that one out. Rizzo, I have to be patient, but I want to be able to say this is a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, these two have been pretty well inseparable for the majority of this race. We saw some earlier battles with them still continuing on as we work our way around. I'm keeping a weather eye up the front. It looks like Caruso's managed to close that gap back down at the front. We better get back up there and double check because here he is coming back now at Haber after that half spin just a lap and a half ago. He's managed to get back up on the gearbox of Harley Haber. Andrew Gilliam's just fallen away a fraction, but in the event there's any contact between either of these two, he will be licking his lips to jump up into that second spot.
Can't remember Caruso and Gilliam running this high so far this season. Oh, that's a slide for Haber. He's offline. Now this is possibly the best opportunity yet for Caruso, because usually Haber gets a really good launch, and that's an alright launch, but it's down to 0.2 of a second. And actually gaining through the kink there was Caruso. That's rare. Usually he loses a bit of time, and he could go for a lunge at the end of the Wellington straight. Here he goes. So good on the brakes though, is Haber. We've seen it all season long how good he's been on the brakes. And really all Caruso is able to do, gets his car down the inside. That was a mistake from Haber though. Tried to square off the corner a bit and he nearly paid the price.
Very good defensive work there though to maintain that. We see Caruso getting another run and just closing up a bit at Gilliam right behind there, trying to get back up to this scrap as well as the guys work their way down to Maggots and Beckett's now. Get a good run here. Just how much curb we can see Haber taking. Likewise for Caruso, so pretty evenly matched actually. Caruso maybe just struggling initially to get that car turned in. Gilliam all over the back of him now as well.
Yeah, Gilliam pitted 1 lap earlier than Caruso, and yet he maybe the fact that he's been in fresh airs helps him to save his task, because look at him, he's all over the back now. I still think though for Gilliam probably the best strategy is to just wait for something to happen to these two guys ahead. Although we're running out of laps, aren't we? We're down to 4 laps remaining for all these drivers. And Andrew
not much
Dyson's
left.
6 seconds behind still. He's catching them up by about a second a lap, but not enough laps to close in, I think.
No, I think it's going to be a tough ask for Dyson to bring that car back up. As you say, 6 seconds, a long way to go. But right now, though, this scrap for second position is probably going to be the main focus, I think, for the remainder of these laps here, as we see Gilliam still trying to come in a little quicker last time than both of the two ahead of him, actually 4/10 quicker than Caruso, 3/10 quicker than Harley Haber as well. So his car's starting to come to him in these late stages.
Okay, so with a little bit of glitching out. Was using the Aussie servers, thank goodness, otherwise I don't think anyone would get through any of these type battles that we've seen. So hopefully you've enjoyed it on the Esports Network and on Apex Racing TV as well. Because we certainly have. This lead battle has been one of the best lead battles of the season, and we've had a few to over it. Montreal last time out was brilliant. That second place battle as well at Daytona in the endurance event was really good. Along with plenty others. This may be just the best one with Haber holding off Scott for a number of laps. Scott eventually managed to get past, and then ever since then it's been Caruso trying to do the same thing on the car number 21.
Yeah, it's interesting. All three of these cars have different strengths and weaknesses around this circuit, just to see where they are. Haber very, very good through that initial phase. You see Caruso coming back in that middle phase, and Gilliam lightning through that final portion of the lap as well. So it's interesting to see where these guys can make up that little bit of time. And looking at Gilliam here, gets himself into a nice draft, potentially thinking about that late move. They're not quite close enough, but I think he'll be looking to do similar to what we saw at Daytona, where I think it was Scott on Haber at that point, where they were setting up for quite a few laps, looking at opportunities. Potentially could see that come back about us again.
A few other battles down the order closing up in these later stages of the race. Hate to pull away from that second place battle, but here we are with, I believe this is the Morris battle. Yep, Morris, Keane, Johnston, along with Lindsell and Retu. Retu's been pretty quick in this second half of the race, I believe. It's on lap 13, but yeah, at the front of this at least is Matt Morris holding up against Keane. A chance for a move into Bale. Perhaps? Nope, staying behind. Also, Zach Boyd is catching up to Andrew Dyson for 5th place. Down to only half a second. Now that's that gap.
Yeah, and likewise, Hins and Rizzo for 8th and 9th still staying relatively close also. So some still good battles up and down the course of this field, as you say. But now that Ross has been able to get in front of Hins, those slightly better tyres are going to help him out a little more. Freer might potentially be thinking of a look up at the inside of Hins if we can close that gap down, which at the moment stands at just over a second. Johnston and Lindsell very close. Don't think Lindsell's quite close enough there for the move down the inside. Thinks about it though. And right behind that, you've got Bradley Ratu getting involved also, closing up. And these guys not too far apart at all. Still
Second place.
over that 8th.
He's going around the outside. Maybe this is finally the point where he breaks this deadlock. And Caruso, I think, is going to do it here. Down the inside into Vale. This is where Haber was very strong earlier on, and Haber will just not give up. And that's the price he's paid. He's dropped down to 4th place. Dyson, I don't think is close enough. No, he hasn't quite caught up. And Jordan Caruso is up into 2nd place. I don't think Haber can complain too much about that one. We're going to get a replay of it now, so you can see how he's been done on the outside. He then drives it in really deep. Can still make the apex. Oh, well, maybe he'll feel a little bit aggrieved because initially I thought he maybe turned in a little bit, but he did leave a car's width on the inside. Maybe a little bit of netcode as well. No, it was netcode.
Potentially, okay. But Caruso was well down the inside there, and I think as you can see up along the B pillar, they're just in enough, but race control have deemed that the netcode, as you say, so they will continue on, but Haber going to be bitterly disappointed to now find himself down in 4th position.
Gilliam not putting too much pressure on Caruso, I think. And you'll be decently pleased with a podium place. Be a very happy podium. It's always nice when you have a happy podium, isn't it? Rather than 3 drivers who either feel guilty about the position they finished in or disappointed there wasn't more. I think all of these guys, Scott, Caruso and Gilliam, will be absolutely delighted about the way that this race has unfolded. Only 5 seconds between the top 2. Do you wonder if Caruso hadn't have been held up by Haber for so many laps, how much pressure he could have put on the race leader? And you wonder, was it the right strategy for Haber to come into the pit so early? He seemed comfortable in that 2nd place. He had to do something, I guess, different to Scott. But, yeah. Do you think that undercut was the wise decision in the end? Or should he have waited a couple more laps to come into the pits?
Look, potentially, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'd say now, looking at it, probably better to have waited just that little bit longer. Or maybe needing that little bit extra fuel, because remember, he did have one of the quickest stops out there tonight in 18 seconds, whereas the bulk of the field's come through in about 25 seconds. So potentially a little bit of fuel saving, which has ultimately held Caruso up and did start impacting Scott as well a little bit. So hindsight's a wonderful thing. Staying out later definitely seems to have been the right option, as we see out the front now. James Scott, as a result of that latest pit stop, opening up a huge advantage now, 5.2 seconds over teammate Jordan Caruso.
This is round 8 of the season. I'm just thinking, would this be Scott's 6th win of the season? I think he's only been beaten twice at Oran Park and Summit Point. I think they are the only 2 races he's lost. He may have lost another one as well. There's been absolute domination from James Scott so far this season, but he certainly was pushed today by Haber. He went for that alternative strategy, pitting on lap 13. Just got the undercuts on Scott, but after that, Scott was so good. Gets him past straight away, didn't hesitate. He had to get it done nice and quick, and he did so. Those other battles that we were talking about before, they have sped out a little bit. There's still a couple of close ones. Here's Nick Coulson trying to get past car number 1, Marlon McCullen. Oh, this could be good, actually, down this way. And turn straight. Good job from McMullen. Just parking on the apex, and he gets a nice shove from his rival. He increases his acceleration. So, good wily driving there from the driver currently occupying 16th place. And he should be all right into this next corner. Has pulled out a few car lengths. Anyone who's watching the live timing sees that there's no reds. Where's all the reds? It's all yellow now. But out in the lead, it's very much white, which indicates a big margin for James Scott. Over 5 seconds, he has got the lead, and he was challenged, like I said, by Harley Haber. Got past though, and ever since then, it has been comfortable for the championship leader, who is sprinting to the championship title. Surely, James Scott, number 88. Rounds the final corner at Silverstone, and he wins round 8 of the Acuta AOSC Super Series. 2nd place is Jordan Caruso. Andrew Gilliam rounds out the top 3. Harley Haber frustrated with 4th. Dyson holds off Boyd right at the end, as the rest of the top 10 come through. Preston will just about miss out on that top 10, finishing 11th. Tom Freer rounded out the top 10 in the end with a little bit of a struggling finish. McMullen and Coulson still close. Coulson though, after losing a bit of time at that 2nd hairpin, he thought about going for the last gasp move into club. It's not going to happen though. McMullen, nice drive from him, from 22nd on the grid to finish in the top 16. Also got Goodall and Latta and Retsu as well, just ahead of those drivers. He will finish behind Johnston. Doesn't seem like Latta's going to get past Goodall. Oh, they are pretty close into the last few corners. Doesn't quite happen for him. Didn't have the run to the line, and everyone else behind is a little bit separated. So once again, you just can't question James Scott. I mean, he took pole this time by a relatively comfortable margin, 0.2 of a second. And in the race, he once again just had that 0.2 on everyone else, and that's been the story of the season. He hasn't been crushing the field, but just that mixture of a little bit of extra pace plus that incredible racecraft, and he's done it again.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't always have to be the quickest out of the box. Consistency is what wins the championships, and Scott is putting everything together right now exactly as he needs to. He can apply the pressure where required to upset the challenges that he's coming up against. Like we saw him get into the mind there of Haber and was able to get that car through. But once he did that, the consistency gets him up where he needs to be, and as a result, 6 wins on throughout the course of the championship so far. We're only 8 races in. He's well and truly on task for getting that championship win for ERT.
He really is. And so, almost Zach Best has now crossed. I don't know what happened to Zach Best. He was running in the top. Oh no, so he finished in 19th place in the end. Zach Best. That was big. He was the last driver on the lead lap, hence what my confusion. So I think that is everyone across the line. And so we can go through the final results for this round 8 of the Acuta AOSC Super Series. And it is James Scott winning out again for ERT. Johnny Caruso's teammate finishing in 2nd place. Andrew Gilliam rounds out the top 3 with Harley Haber in 4th. Andrew Dyson, Zach Boyd, Danny Davison, Ross Rizzo, Thomas Hines, and Tom Freer rounds out the top 10. Then was Corey Preston, Ryan O'Sullivan, Jordan Ross, Carl Stokes, Brett Loxton, Marlon McCullen, Nick Coulson, Rob Bowden, David Kimmons, Matt Morris, Reese Keane, Damien Johnston, Bradley Rittu, Sean Lindsell, Ruben Goodall, Kenneth Latter, Rob Harris, and Adam Briggs running out the top 28. 29th, there was Warren Pickering, Christian Smart, Michael Tatliancic, Daniel Misdale, Marty Hansen, Paul Lee, Jacob Knight, Craig Anspach, Brian Borg, and Job Stewart. Last driver on the lead, like I was saying, was Zach Best. And then the retirees were, or maybe retirees, the drivers many laps down were Jack Widders, Sean Thompson, Greg Sharp, Wayne Taylor, and Craig Jones. Not too many retirees. Of course, fast repairs we do have in this race. No safety cars as well. In a couple of races since we didn't have any safety cars. So nice driving from the guys out there. I think we're about to get to an interview with all of the top 3 in today's race. And first up, we're going to have a chat with James Scott, who's done it again. Another race victory to his name. Congratulations, James. First up, when you made your pit stop and you were behind Harley, you must have been a little bit concerned. What were your thoughts when you came out in 2nd place after that pit stop?
Yeah, that's definitely wasn't ideal, that one. It made that race a lot harder than probably what it should have been. We'll have to go back and sort of have a look at why we let that happen. But anyway, yeah, put a good show on for the viewers. Not a bit of a battle mid-race there.
Yeah, it really was. And eventually you got past, I believe, at the end of the Wellington straight, although Haber just wouldn't let you go, would you? It looked very fun to be part of and very clean as well.
Yeah, that was a really good battle, that one. There was plenty of room given by both. So I got to give a shout out to Harley for that. That was one of the best battles I've had. It was side by side for almost a whole lap. I was a bit worried seeing Jordan, my teammate, come up behind me because we lost a lot of time. But yeah, it was good to get around him.
And we also saw you flashing your lights quite a bit. I was very confused why you were flashing lights when you were out in the lead. What was that about?
Oh, well, that's news to me as well. Maybe I might have to have a look at the button. I might have a faulty button on my wheel. So yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Right, but yeah, I was thinking, why on earth is he doing that? But yeah, you probably explained it right there. And I mean, after that overtake, how was it driving around the circuit? How did the car feel around this place? Would you say this is a good car track combination?
Yeah, I think this really suits. I like this track in the V8. And I think the setup that we had tonight was pretty good. As you probably saw in the first stint, I was able to get a little bit of a gap on Harley until he came out after the pit stop ahead. But yeah, the car setup and the car felt really good around here.
And next up, we head to another Enduro, Barcelona. Have you ever driven these supercars around Barcelona before?
We drove it. I'm not sure what layout it's going to be. for the enduro, but we did drive the short layout. It's like a short layout around there last iRacing season. So I have driven parts of it, but the GP layout I haven't driven for a little while, so I'll have to go and learn that one again.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck for that one, James. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
First off, just a congratulations to Jordan on his first AOSC podium, and obviously all our sponsors, MAR Raceline, Panther Race Fuels, and obviously all the guys at Evolution Racing Team.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, James, and yeah, best of luck for next time out.
Thanks, boys.
So that was James Scott, your race winner for today. We believe his 6th race victory of the season. It is quite a championship that he is putting together. Next up, Daniel, I think we're going to have a chat with Jordan Caruso.
Yeah, we'll get him in here. Jordan, mate, congratulations. 2nd place tonight. First championship podium on the AOSC. Fantastic runner there. How was it out there for you tonight?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I got a pretty good start. I think Jordan Ross had a pretty bad start, so I sort of got around him. And then, yeah, I'm pretty happy with how I drove. It was pretty consistent. The car was good. I didn't quite have the outright pace as James, and Harley was pulling away a little bit as well. Then after the pit stop, when James and Harley were battling, it sort of brought me back into it. And then I was just sort of waiting for the right time, started sticking my nose in, sort of hoping he'd make a mistake. And then a few laps from the end, I sort of went around the outside, and then I was on the right side going into the second last corner. And I think unfortunately he sort of spun. I'm not really sure what happened, but no, it was good. I'm really stoked.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you drove yourself well through the field, as you say, started 5th and coming home in the 2nd. But I guess the big thing for yourself, when you got into that battle, you had Harley Haber just in front of you. Oh, actually, yeah, you had Harley Haber involved. You had Gilliam closing in at a rapid rate of knots while you two were battling it out. And then all 3 of you went on for a really long fight. Were you finding, as you were sitting behind Haber, any good opportunities where you felt you were a little bit quicker? Because both cars look very, very evenly paced.
Yeah, I think when I was driving sort of how I want to be driving, I think I had a bit of pace on him. But it's sort of hard to consistently drive at that level. And then sort of once we started battling, Gilliam was catching pretty quick, and I started sort of making some mistakes. But it's pretty much all. The only important thing is how you get onto that back straight, because that's a pretty good passing opportunity, and I got a really good run, and that sort of gave me the opportunity to go for it.
Yeah, definitely. And mate, again, I would say congratulations on the podium as well. Next week, off to Barcelona. What are your thoughts going there, and how do you think the supercar is going to get around that next week?
I think I've only driven there once in it, but I think it's sort of similar to this track. So hopefully I've got good pace there as well, and hopefully I can sort of stay up near the front.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, we've said it a couple of times already. Again, congratulations tonight, coming home 2nd place, first championship podium on the AOSC, so fantastic to have you up. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks to for helping you along tonight?
Yeah, Evolution Racing Team, obviously. James and Cooper especially for helping me sort of get up to pace. Panther Race Fuels and MIR Raceline. Yeah.
Fantastic, mate. Well, we'll leave you to it, and all the best for next week out at Barcelona.
Thank you very much.
That was Jordan Caruso, 2nd place in today's event. It was a really good performance from him for his first ever podium. And finally, we're going to have an interview with Andrew Gilliam. He finished in 3rd position. Andrew, congratulations. It wasn't looking as though you could get a podium at the midway stage of the race, but that 2nd stint was absolutely storming.
Yeah, it felt a lot better. I got a bit of damage from the start of the race, and a bit of that was repaired from some optional repairs. And I think the car felt a bit more hooked up after that pit stop, which was good. Yeah, I didn't have the pace to take it to those front 3. The podium tonight's a bit of just hanging in there and making my own luck per se, but yeah, I'm really stoked to be on the podium tonight. Thanks, guys.
You caught up to Jordan quite a lot, and for Marcy at least, it looked like you were the fastest of the three of them. Was it tempting to go for a move, or were you just going to wait for the two ahead of you to maybe make some contact?
I think my set was chewing my rears away, so I was trying to drive sort of that 95%, sort of braking just a little bit early and just keeping with them in the draft. But I found that they weren't coming to me while I was driving it more consistently. So I think I've got a bit of work to do with the race setup at this track. But yeah, the first couple laps felt really good, and I had a really good pit stop. I don't know how, but I made a good 4 to 5 seconds on most drivers in that pit stop. So really good strategy there.
8 races down, 8 races to go. We're kind of getting to the point of the season where you can kind of have a view of where you're going to finish in this championship. Any goals for you, because you now got this podium, but any other targets you got to the end of the season?
I'd love to just rack up the podium positions and maybe get a few more poles. I was planning to do more go-karting orientated racing this year, so I made a lot of plans that sort of clashed with iRacing, and I wasn't as committed to it. But who knows, with all the go-karting centers closed now, I'll have a lot more spare time. I might be able to come back for a championship fight, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Definitely. And next up, we head to Barcelona for a team event. You've done, of course, many team events so far this season. Which do you kind of prefer? Do you prefer these team ones or maybe the sprint solo rounds?
I like the enduro ones a bit more, because you've got that partnership and you've got that communication and support and motivation with the teammate the whole way through the race. And it's really interesting, you know, you don't just race the people around you, you're sort of racing the people around you 40 laps ahead, if you know what I mean. So I do enjoy the challenge of setting yourself up for that. You know, it's 80% of the race is basically qualifying for the last basically stint from the pit stop. So yeah, I do enjoy that challenge quite a bit.
I'm sure you're going to do extremely well once again next week. Andrew, before you let go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Love to give a massive shout out to Track Racer and the MX TV show for their ongoing support, and just love to thank the team again. We had so many guys on tonight working together, building the set, and I love the camaraderie in the team. So yeah, thank you very much. Big shout out to Pursuit Sim Racing.
Well, congratulations out there, Andrew. Thanks for putting on a superb show, and yeah, best of luck for Barcelona.
Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for the broadcast tonight, and I'll see you then.
So that was Andrew Gilliam, third place driver in this round 8 of the championship. Apologies to the sponsors because I didn't go through them at the start of the show, so I'll go through them now, and hopefully that will somewhat make up for it. Of course, Acuta Solutions, title sponsor, providing rigging hardware and safety equipment. Next Level Racing, doing racing and flight cockpits. Abitsi Racewear, doing custom sim racing and also custom real racing gear. Made some simulations, doing VR sim racing centers around Australia. Knight Rider Designs, creating personal liveries for drivers and teams. Wolf Graphics, doing personalized stickers and signs. And by the way, thanks for Wolf Graphics. They sent me some stickers. Thank you very much. They look very cool. They got my name on it and everything. It's so cool. Sat Black Clock Media, he will be doing the race highlight photos from this round of the championship. So check out the AOSC Facebook page to see them. And also Race Management Service as well for doing the live race control. And of course, thanks to all the stewards for their time. Thanks to all the drivers. And thanks to all of you for tuning in as well. Yeah, of course, next up, Barcelona. I'm not the biggest fan of Barcelona, personally. Daniel, I'm going to put that out there right now. I'm going to try to get all the negativity out for the next 7 days, so I'm nice and positive about that track next time. It's tricky to overtake, though, around there, and I think actually for an endurance race, it's a really good host, because you're going to have that tricky racecraft element, high tire deg, and absolutely as well, because we could potentially get some high track temperatures, and those really long corners are going to chew up the tires. It will be a very interesting strategic race, I think, for that one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's if I'm honest, it's probably not one of my favourite circuits out on the calendar. However, it does present a lot of unique challenges that all these teams, drivers, setup engineers are going to really need to work on. Obviously, we touched on a couple of points. You've got some very long radius turns, which are really going to affect those outside left tyres on the car. So trying to get those to hang in there over a course of a stint is going to be huge. But then you've also got some quite technical little sections and needing to get the car to rotate back on itself. So it's going to be really interesting to see the way these setup engineers go with, because I've noticed in a few of the Enduros, we've seen a lot of guys running a lot more rear brake than probably what we'd be used to seeing to try and help get these cars rotate. But at what point, how much is too much? So it's going to be a really interesting juggling exercise for all these guys to really set these cars up well. Obviously, we've got the huge long front straight, which is going to play all sorts of havoc with the guys and how they want to set up the rear downforce on the car. There's so many options here that I think it's going to present some really unique challenges, and the racing as a result is going to be absolutely fantastic from it.
Yeah, I think it really is. So you can tune in for that one. No week break, which is good. We'll be straight back into it. Same time. Well, no, it's not same time, is it? That's completely wrong. 2 hours earlier. Oh, got to get up. Oh, the clocks have changed. I think it's 1 hour later now. So just subscribe to the Esports Network and Apex Racing TV, and then turn on notifications. Keep an eye out on it next Friday, and it will pop up on your screen, I am sure, and you can listen to us bringing you all the action from there. And yeah, subscribe to Esports Network as well, because there's so many other fantastic series. We've also got a few other supercar series actually as well. You've got the V8 Scops, and you've got the official series as well. That's all coming up in the next few days, and plenty of other GT racing, single seat racing. And do check out Apex Racing TV as well, because we also do GT racing and all that stuff. So do check out our channel for that. And all the esports coverage we do is also on Apex Racing TV. So it's certainly worth looking at that one. But thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you'll join us back for round 9 of the championship next time out at Barcelona. But for now, from me, from Daniel, and from Scott, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.